about you, all the things we've done when everything went down. I know we're never gonna get enough, and maybe it's better to let it go. We'll never be the same. Tell me what you're going through. Won't you tell me all the things that you do? Tell
morning, everybody. How you doing? I'm back in the saddle. Ha ha. Yes, they came and fixed my cable, and I'm back. And I'm very happy about it. Although I still got a patio to finish today, and I'm just anticipating some sore muscles and from carrying a lot of big old stone pieces into my backyard because they had to put it in my driveway because we have a fence and they couldn't drive pallets through my fence. So I'm looking forward to that. But anyway, it is the week of Independence Day coming up Sunday. Looking forward to that. Fortunately, I had to cancel a trip to Omaha. We had to change our plans because not realizing that one of us in our household has to work on Friday and the other one has to work on Monday still. Probably because we weren't aware that Lady Boomer's place of employment was going to be open Monday, but they are because that's what they do. She's stuck there. So anyway, happy Tuesday though. I'm glad you're here. I hope you're ready for a decent show. I didn't say a good show because I don't know. Is it good always? Not always, but I do my best. But I do know that my cable works, and so the internet comes into my house and it comes down that thing over there, down the line, and comes all the way over here to this computer that I'm hiding under the desk. And I'm happy to be here. So let's plan it and having a good show or a decent show or whatever it is. And I am happy again. Welcome. So I'll talk to you right after the intro. Play the intro. Ladies and gentlemen, coming to you live from the Lucky Dog studio in a hidden location somewhere in the upper Midwest of the United States of America. It's a brother making his own way, but with all the wrong opinions. Welcome to the Morning Night Live with your host, yours truly, PDawgKnight. All right, stop the music. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Morning Night Live. I'm your host, Marty, also known as PDawgKnight on the internet, and welcome to the PDawgKnight Channel. It is Tuesday, the 29th of June, 2021. Just a few short days until we celebrate the actual Independence Day. Not that Juneteenth doesn't mean independence for a certain segment of society and it celebrates something else, but this is the big one, the big Independence Day, the one that where we said to those redcoats, said, hey, we've had enough of your crap and we're not taking it anymore. In the course of human events, sometimes you just gotta change some shit. Anyway, good morning, everybody. Let's say hello to the people in the chat, and then we'll get into it. Because I kind of want to talk a little bit about, there's some interesting conversations regarding Gwen Berry, the hammer thrower from the United States that kind of didn't want to respect the national anthem and flag, which I don't really, personally, I don't care. You know, she was the third place person. She lost, and so I'm sure she was salty about that. But that has, whatever. And then also I want to know, the New York Post is asking a question that I was just asking yesterday, and I thought it was fascinating. So we'll talk about that. But again, I got to say hello to the people who are here. First in the chat today was Mr. Mike Savage, who gets the bell. And thank you, sir, for being here, of course, and always being a loyal listener of the Morning Night Live. Also, good morning, Gunfox61, our administrator of the PDawgKnight.live Discord server. You can join that. That'll pop up in the chat. Good morning, Jonathan Peterson, Jesse Leon, Jaeger Pony, my favorite Canadians in the house. Also, good morning, Advocatus Diabli, the Devil's Advocate. Kay Scholl's here. Lord Stanhope's here. Somnambule Nation, what's up? Attack Alpaca, hello. Why are you so angry? Nope. That's the person, not the question. That's the name in the chat. Also, Keever Dams in the house. Good morning. Also, Select a Boy. Yeah, boy. Also, good morning to Uncle Bad Touch. Uh-oh.
Come on, man.
We know who you are, Uncle Bad Touch. Stop sniffing them girls. Okay, good morning to Rydeos. Hello, Tyler F. Maddie's in the house. And I'm sure Ronan's back there in the background somewhere. Also, Gamer Valine's here early. Yes, the cable does live. And also, good morning, Aaron Meredith. Nice to see you back. Also, and I think that's everyone in the chat. There's a bunch of people in here that haven't said anything yet, and that's okay. Just make sure you hit the like button whenever you get a chance. And if you really like what's going on, share the stream. Let your friends, let your neighbors, let your enemies know. Look. Like the signs in front of many homes in the city of Minneapolis, all are welcome here. Yes, you are welcome here. Also, Black Hebrew Israelites in the house.
That's right.
Of course. Good morning, sir. And away we go. So, how is everyone doing? I hope you're having a good morning. I am. It's funny. There's kind of a wild thread going on in my Twitter feed. Talking about the Star Spangled Banner. We'll get into that in a minute. But first, I want to show you this editorial in the, it's an opinion article in the New York Post that's asking the same question that I've been asking. Who the hell's in charge? Seriously, who is in charge? Okay, here's the article. As Biden bumbles, quite often, hello, Asian Research Director, as Biden bumbles, the question is, who is really running the country? And that is a very, very valid question. Who are they? They give me the list of people I need to call on. Oh, they're going to get mad at me. Someone's going to get mad at me if I do this. Who is they? Who the hell is they? All right. So Kyle, this is from Kyle Smith at the New York Post. Chris Rock famously said when Barack Obama was president, quote, "The president and the first lady are kind of like the mom and dad of the country. And when your dad says something, you listen." Well, sort of. I tended to tune him out. But anyway, I'm going to continue. Joe Biden, though, is the granddad of the country. And when you listen to granddad, sometimes you wonder whether it's safe for him to be near a pair of scissors. No big deal, though. It's just there's this guy who looks like he'd have trouble using Google Maps and happens to be in charge of all the nukes. On the rare occasion when Biden's staff let him out of the day room to be seen on camera, pre-selected members of the press ask him the gentlest conceivable questions and then wind up cringing anyway as Biden gives one unnerving display after another. Isn't that the truth? Xi Jinping and Vladimir Putin must watch these press conferences giggling uncontrollably, that makes more sense, at their good fortune. Suddenly the world's greatest power is in the hands of a slightly dazed looking fellow who seems like he is always waking up from heavy anesthesia. True. On Thursday, Biden 3 times bent over and taking care to set his eyes to crazy, whispered into the microphone as though he was auditioning to play a stalker coming in from inside the house to terrorize a babysitter in the 1980s TV movie. Defending one of his bills, he whispered, "I got them 1.9 trillion in relief so far," to the joy and just praise of Yamiche, what is her name? Yamiche Oruchi or something like that. It was so funny because when he did that, what's her face from PBS, she's the White House correspondent, was just enthralled, smiling and anticipating his every word. Anyway, that's not in the article here. Later on another question, Biden whispered again, "I wrote the bill on the environment. Why would I not be for it?" Did you write the bill on that, Joe? I want to know what bill he wrote on the environment. That's curious. Ryan himself, how you doing? I see you there. A video of the whispery bits was viewed more than 3 million times. Why is our president trying to sound so murdery. At age 78, by which time Ronald Reagan was retired, Biden is suffering from what nursing home workers delicately refer to as personality changes. You get the feeling his aides spend a solid week coaching him in advance before letting him speak, which is why he keeps saying things like, quote, "I'm going to get in trouble with staff," end quote. Never before have we had a president who so openly feared his minders. Who's making the decision? That is my exact question. Who's making the decisions when he's saying, "I'm going to get in trouble with my staff"? You're the president of the United States. What? Who is it that you could get in trouble with? Besides Jill Biden. Because, it doesn't matter if you're the president of the United States, you can get in trouble with your wife, but that's not the question I'm asking. Now, because he's just reciting the buzzwords his staffers dream up, Biden may not even be aware of how silly he sounds when he uses online cultist words such as Latinx to refer to Latinos, who mostly haven't heard the term and never use it. He obviously had no idea how insulting he sounded to Latinos when he suggested, quote, "They're worried they'll be vaccinated and deported." What an idiot. Is our president aware that most Latinos are here legally? These are all questions I've been asking. Was this guy watching my show the other day? I'm just curious. In the same remarks, he confused the Tuskegee Airmen, a group of heroic Black World War II pilots, with the victims of the Tuskegee syphilis study, which is about as dumb as confusing coronavirus with Corona beer. I could see where you might slip up on that part. I didn't really give him too much crap about that one, but everyone's heard it. All of these blunders came in the same 30 seconds, as though Biden were saving the RNC some editing work by creating a campaign ad for them in real time. I guess we'll have to wait until the moment when Biden starts emitting a stream of actual gibberish or answering the press using sock puppets before our media acknowledge the obvious. Since our president isn't fit to find his way home after dark, do we really believe he's the one running the country? Nope. Just curious. So, what say you in the chat? Good morning, Alone. What's up? Giddy up. That's right. Giddy up. I'm back in the saddle, baby. Fire 2 shots in the air. Jill gets a shotgun, baby. Get a shot. Jill, get a shotgun. Baby, get a shotgun. Yeah, that's oh my gosh, when he was saying, "No, just fire a shotgun in the air." Who needs a rifle? Shoot a shotgun and shoot a couple shots in the air. Yeah, that's not a good idea, Joe. Don't be telling people to do that. Anyway, so I just thought it was humorous that editorial happened to come up. Because I've been kind of saying that all weekend. And just anyway. All right, let's see what else is going on here. Oh, by the way, real quick, thank you, Silly Billy, Scribe Light, Tyler F, Jack Cochran, as in the Jack Cochran, Maddie, RVA Dark, Dr. Keeve, and all of you who've been sharing out the stream this morning. Is that you too, Mike Savage? Oh no, you're talking about the Star Spangled Banner. Yeah, there's a big old thing about the Star Spangled Banner thread. We're gonna go through this because it's there's a misconception about the third verse that somebody else brought up. And I heard this argument about a year ago. I think it was Tariq Nasheed who brought up. But this time, Maj Touré brought up. I'm like, Maj, do you not know the history of the Star Spangled Banner? We'll get to that anyway. Anyway, thank you, Maddie, the first sponsor of the show today. And Maddie,
you are the new Streamlabs Superstar sponsor of the day.
I did not mean to step over that, but thank you so much. You are the superstar sponsor of the day. Maddie with the 10 spot, thank you, very generous, who says, Biden is the creepy senile uncle you only let out of, He's the creepy and senile uncle you only let out under supervision. He hasn't been upgraded to grandpa. He's too creepy to be America's grandpa. They are the little voice in his head. Yes. Yes, they are the little voice in his head. Thank you, Maddie, for sponsoring the show. If you want to sponsor the show, like Maddie just did, you can do that through YouTube Super Chats and Streamlabs. The link will show up in the chat every once in a while. In fact, it's right. Is it there? Has it showed up yet? Yeah, it's right here. It says Streamlabs Superstar sponsor Super Chat link here. It'll pop up some other ways anyway. And also join the Discord server. And if you don't follow me on Twitter, mine's Gab, Parler, or Cloud Hub, or any of those other places like BitChute and Rumble and Odyssey, Trovo, DLive, all those places. I am at PDawgKnight, just like it says right up here in the corner. That's where you can find me on those platforms. Also, or Instagram though, if you want to follow me, and I don't know why anyone would follow me on Instagram. I just post a bunch of pictures of flowers and silly stuff there. But if you are curious about what I do outside of this place, you can follow me on Instagram. But I am Yes That Marty, no punctuation, just no spaces. Yes That Marty, because I am that Marty. So Yes That Marty, if you want to follow me there. All right. Thank you again, Maddie, for sponsoring the show. Let's get into something else here, though, because this seems to have been the story that has kind of caught everyone's attention, and I think it's caught too much attention. I think this person has gotten way, way too much attention over the weekend, but now I'm going to give her some attention, maybe not for the same reason everybody else does, but this is the story first, okay? DLive, which I'm not streaming on right now, but now someone told me that DLive is starting to purge a whole bunch of people, and I don't know why. I don't know if there's anything that I say on my show that would be purgeable on that show, on that that platform. Oh, I gotta check something because they said that let me check something real quick. They said that nothing I really talk about would cause me to get purged, because I'm pretty mild-mannered and try to. I don't. Do I say anything all that controversial that would get you kicked off of DLive? I don't know. I don't think so. But I am going to start multi-streaming on other platforms again. Oh wow, that's not good. My download speed's only about 70. That's weird. Oh no, now it's creeping up. That's not good. Usually it's about 200. What's my upload speed? I'll try that real quick. Download 90. My upload's still at 40, so that's good. Uploads for me when I'm doing a show like this is much more important than download speed. All right. Anyway, let's talk about. I know I'm kind of going off on tangents here. Let's talk about Gwen Berry just for a tiny bit, because it kind of leads into the other part we're getting to. So Gwen Berry, a hammer thrower at the U.S. Olympic trials, got a little bit blasted, according to the Daily Wire here, for her anthem protest. And some said, try this shit in an actually oppressive country, because that's just people were all up in her grits about this. And I don't know. This is just some attention-seeking behavior as far as I'm concerned. But anyway, hammer thrower Gwen Berry received significant backlash after turning her back on the U.S. flag during the U.S. national anthem on Saturday. Berry placed third, which means she lost, but still makes the Olympic team, in the hammer throw on Saturday, qualifying her for the Tokyo Olympics. As the national anthem began to play, with the winner standing on the podium, Berry turned away from the flag so that she was facing the stands, the Daily Wire reported. Toward the end of the anthem, she pulled up a black t-shirt with the words "activist athlete" on the front and covered her head. The stunt caused an uproar on social media, with many questioning why Berry would want to represent a country she scorns. Others suggested that Berry be thrown off Team USA and not allowed to compete in the Olympics over the protest. Quote, then don't compete on behalf of the U.S. in competition. Fairly simple, conservative radio host Dana Lash said. And there's the picture of her. She kind of has her hand on her hip, kind of, looking unimpressed, unwilling to acknowledge what was happening there. Ricochet editor Bethany Mandel tweeted, "I love to see someone from an actually oppressive country try this shit. Hell, I wouldn't mind if they threw her off Team USA, but they're gutless and will give her a participation trophy just to assuage their own baggage." Yeah, whatever. So this is clearly this is just a bunch of Twitter thread or Twitter reactions. Why do we have athletes representing America who don't like America? Yada 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 yada. Now, my take on this. Well, no, wait. I want to talk to you about Jen Psaki's take because Jen Psaki was asked about this, and I thought I had this one open. Hang on a second here. Interesting. Jen Psaki's take on this, and we'll go to. Oh, what the hell happened there? Come on. Get this right. Da, 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 da. Oh, that goes back to Ace. That's not where I wanted to go. So Jen Psaki. Oh, here we go. On Monday, the White House press secretary, Jen Psaki. Every time I hear her name or say her name, I just think of a little white cup with some warm liquor in it. You know what I'm saying? A little warm sake. Press Secretary Jen Psaki said that President Joe Biden, quote, respects Barry's right to protest and avoided any criticism of the Team USA athlete, as the Daily Wire reported. Asked about the incident, Psaki said that Biden has not spoken specifically about Barry and that he respects her right to peacefully protest. The president, Psaki added, is incredibly proud to be an American and has great respect for the anthem and all that it represents, especially for our men and women serving in uniform around the world. Well, that was a boilerplate answer. But she added, added that Biden, quote, would also say, of course, that part of our pride in our country means recognizing there are moments when we are as a country haven't lived up to our highest ideals, and that means respecting the rights of people granted to them in the Constitution to peacefully protest. Yeah, I guess I don't necessarily disagree with that. I just gotta say, though, it's the irony is not lost either. If you're representing the country, well, why the hell would you want to represent a country that is so oppressive that you came in third in the Hammer Girl? I was going to make it. I watched Tria Logic's video on this, if you know who Tria Logic is, and she's like, you got beat by a couple white girls, which I didn't understand maybe that's why she was mad. Because she, at one point, was she was the United States record holder for a short period of time because she broke the U.S. record during the Pan Am Games, but then they tested her for illegal substances and she got clipped. Basically, they said that nope, you don't get this record because you have some juice in you that probably isn't natural, and so they took her record away, and then she got banned from competing for 2 years, and now she's back, and she did come in third, but the girl, what bothers me mostly about this is that this woman, she got so much attention for this. And I guess I'm not too. If she's gonna have her little protest and whatnot, I in a way I don't care. I don't want to hear about it. I'd rather hear about the woman who won, because the woman who won, and it's sad that I know this woman's name and I don't know the woman who's won's name. And again, even this article doesn't mention the people who won. And the woman who won broke the American record, broke the qualifying meet record, and their name's not even mentioned in either of these two articles, and that's the sad part. Anyway, good morning to Sapphire Dragon on the Bosch Tube. How you doing? By the way, I do have my cup of reparations right here in the Papa Bear cup, courtesy of the city of Breckenridge, Colorado. And I'm very happy. Real quick, thank you, Gunfox61, for sponsoring the show with another almost 5, who says UN Human Rights Chiefs calls for, yeah, you can guess what for, reparations over racism. Of course, the bitches. Wait, Marty, the link is in your Discord DMs. FTG, the UN, and Barry, bitch face. You know, I've never been able to figure out how they're going to quantify that. And in almost every case of reparations that has happened, for example, I believe the Japanese who were put in internment camps in World War II, the people who received reparations from Germany were always people who were alive or actually experienced what they are getting reparations for. And it's one of those debates that's so contentious. I just don't see any practical way to do that, nor can you even if you could to find direct lineage, because so many people today are not necessarily, we're not even here when that took place. And so you're punishing, you're going to take money from people who were not here, had nothing to do with it. You know, and could you say the U.S. government, could they go after companies that existed at the time? Could they go after, like, you know, there's certain universities, Georgetown University was trying to come up with some formula for students that they're there, but you would have to be direct descendants of those slaves. And now I think it's a bad idea, but whatever. There's some people who still argue for it, and I'm not my thing. Anyway, all right. Now it brings me to an interesting Twitter thread that I got. Apparently a lot of people have been responding to in my timeline, and I really didn't plan on talking about this, but so here is here's Marsh Touré, and he brought up this line in the third stanza of the Star Spangled Banner, the third verse, where it says, they show the line, they show the third verse, and there's this line: no refuge could save the hiring and slave from the terror of flight or the gloom of the grave, and the Star Spangled Banner in triumph doth wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave, which is the third stanza. And so again, now the Intercept, and this is the part of the protest by Colin Kaepernick, and Maj has kind of picked up on this. Good morning, MC. Hammer time.
Hammer time.
What's up? Now Maj brought up this. Who is this by? Oh, is this part by the Intercept? This is okay. Something called Soapboxy. Third verse, the Star Spangled Banner, breaking down the third verse. Now this is. I'm gonna read this because I haven't read this yet, and then I'm gonna tell you what I've learned from digging into the history on this. This one says, every day there are debates over protests by NFL players who choose to take a knee. After a massive protest this past weekend by the entire league, I watched a watered-down version last night where the narrative was changed from a protest against police brutality to players locking arms in solidarity of team unity. Although I was upset over the message being changed by Aaron Rodgers, who spoke for the team, I had to consider that Green Bay is an overwhelmingly white-populated city where they definitely were concerned about upsetting their fan base. Maybe the Chicago Bears took the same stance because they were playing in Green Bay and wanted to get out of town safely. Yeah, that's probably not it. But anyway, this is back in August 14, 2020. Over the past few days, there have been a lot of posts about the flag code and how many people who claim to be patriotic, including NFL owners, have been violating that code. By allowing the flag to be spread out horizontally over the field, you are in direct violation of the flag code. Also, every team has a small flag displayed on the back of their helmets, which is another violation. Then you have the Super Bowl champions, whose logo contain a partial representation of the flag, which is yet another violation. There are just a few examples that you see on a regular basis, but this article is about the national anthem, so let me get back on the subject. The third verse of the anthem goes like this. And where is that band you so vauntingly swore that the havoc of war and the battle of confusion at a home and a country shall leave us no more? Their blood has washed out their foul footsteps, pollution. So if you didn't catch that, so they're talking about these. The Key is taunting in this verse. He's taunting the Brits who were bombarding this fort. Was it Fort Sumter? I think. No, not Fort. In the War of 1812, they were bombarding this fort, and well, I'll tell you a little history in a minute. Anyway, let me just keep going here. No refuge could save the hireling and slave from the terror, flight, or the gloom of the grave, and the Star-Spangled Banner in triumph doth wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave. This is interesting because this one's the controversy lies with the meaning of lines 5 and 6 of this verse, and has become the topic of the day. What exactly does Francis Scott Key mean by these words, specifically the hireling and slave? No one knows because Key is dead and cannot explain what he means in his own words, so we have to try to interpret them based on who he was as a person. Now, this is this person's thank you, Fort McHenry. I got that mixed up. And so this person said, I did some research, and there are many articles on this subject, almost all of them calling it a racist verse. Now, I know this is shocking to almost everyone reading this, and some of you may have stopped reading because this is not what you want to hear about our national anthem, but here is just some of what I found, and you can do your own research as well. On the Snopes website, which is used to debunk or verify most controversial issues, I found the following explanation. Quote, there are historians, notably Robin Blackburn, author of The Overthrow of Colonial Slavery in 1776 to 1848, and Alan Taylor, author of American Blacks in the War of 1812, who have indeed read the stanza as glorying the Americans' defeat of the Corps of Colonial Marines, one of the 2 units of black slaves recruited between 1808 and 1816 to fight for the British on the promise of gaining their freedom. Like so many of his compatriots, Francis Scott Key, the wealthy American lawyer who wrote the Star-Spangled Banner in the wake of the Battle of Fort McHenry on 14 September 1814, was a slaveholder who believed blacks to be a distinct and inferior race of people, which all experience proves to be the greatest evil that afflicts a community. It goes without saying that Key did not have the enslaved black population of America in mind when he penned the words land of the free. It would be logical to assume as well that he might have harbored a special resentment toward African Americans who fought against the United States on behalf of the king. After the U.S. and British signed a peace treaty at the end of 1814, the U.S. government demanded the return of American property, which by that point numbered about 6,000 people. The British refused. Most of the 6,000 eventually settled in Canada, with some going to Trinidad, where their descendants are known as Americans. In fairness, it has been argued that Key may have intended the phrase as a reference to the British Navy's practice of impressment, kidnapping sailors and forcing them to fight in defense of the crown, or as a semi-metaphorical slap to the British invading force as a whole, which included a large number of mercenaries, though the latter line of thinking suggests even a stronger alternative theory, namely that the word hirelings refers literally to mercenaries, and slaves refers literally to slaves. Okay, I don't want to rely on just one version, though. Although this clearly points to racism. Okay, let's look at another source. I found this on American Historama's website. The Star-Spangled Banner's lyrics The hireling refers to British use of mercenaries, German Hessians in the American War of Independence. The Star Spangled Banner's lyrics and slave is a direct reference to the British practice of impressment, kidnapping American seamen and forcing them into service on British man-of-war ships. This was an important cause of the War of 1812 because I can tell you're impressed. I am not impressed. Oh, wait, did he ironically use SNOOP? Sorry, I had to pause. Yes, he did. Hireling and slave refers to the British. He is calling them slaves to the crown. Well, here's what I'll tell you what I believe in a second, because I've read a lot about this over the last year. But the idea of impressments was an important cause of the war in 1812. Now, this guy doesn't like this version. He says, now this version kind of whitewashes and exonerates Francis Scott Key, but doesn't really sound believable. Why? It was an insult to the British. Anyway, so I went to another source. I found an article by Jason Johnson, a political science professor at Morgan State University, on the root. So he's using Snopes and the root. Here's an excerpt from his article. To understand the full Star Spangled Banner story, you have to understand the author. Key was an aristocrat, a city prosecutor in Washington, D.C. He was, like most enlightened men of the time, not against slavery. He just thought that since blacks were mentally inferior, masters should treat them with more Christian kindness. He supported sending free blacks, not slaves, back to Africa, and with few exceptions was about as pro-slavery, anti-black, and anti-abolitionist as you could get at the time. Well, hang on a second, because see, the other one thing that these people aren't realizing, not all blacks were slaves. This is the thing. They equate black and slavery, but not all blacks were slaves. Just keep that in mind. It continues. One particular note was Key's opposition to the idea of, quote, of colonial Marines. The Marines were a battalion of runaway slaves who joined the British Royal Army in exchange for their freedom. The Marines were not only a terrifying example of what slaves would do if given the chance, but also a repudiation of the white superiority that men like Key were so invested in. See, what bothers me is so many people of this who write about this stuff likes to put terms in that are contemporary for a time that was for a very different purpose. You know what I mean? Using words that now mean one thing or have an immediate connotation for that may have been used in a different manner back then. But I don't necessarily disagree that he was talking about the slaves that were being used in the British Navy. So if you're talking about the hiring in slaves, it's also an insult to those that the idea of impressment, which is partially what the war was fought over, because those people who were forced to be part of the British Navy, for all practical purposes, slaves of the crown, fighting against the U.S., the new colonies, whatever you want to call them. And so when he says hiring the slaves, it's an insult to the British for having these mercenaries and the people that are being forced to fight. So anyway, this guy continues, though. All of these ideas and concepts came together on August 24th, 1815 at the Battle of Bladensburg, where Key, who was serving as a lieutenant at the time, ran into a battalion of colonial Marines. His troops were taken to the woodshed by the very black folks he disdained. And he fled back to his home in Georgetown to lick his wounds. The British troops, emboldened by their victory in Bladensburg, then marched into Washington, D.C., burning the Library of Congress, the Capitol building, and the White House. You can imagine that Key was very much in his feelings. Again, using modern language, very much in his feelings. That's his, seeing black soldiers trampling on the city he so desperately loved. A few weeks later, in September 1815, far from being a captive, Key was on a British boat begging for the release of one of his friends, a doctor named William Beans. Key was on the boat waiting to see if the British would release his friend when he observed the bloody Battle of Fort McHenry in Baltimore on September 13th, 1815. America lost the battle, but managed to inflict heavy casualties on the British. In the process, this inspired Key to write the Star-Spangled Banner right then and there, but no one remembers that he wrote a third full stanza decrying the former slaves who are now working for the British Army. Again, that interpretation is again using a word that may have been used a different way when he wrote it, than basically using a contemporary version of that word. Anyway, in other words, Key was saying that the blood of all the former slaves and hirelings on the battlefield, interesting, he doesn't get too deep into what the hirelings were. And again, impressment was impressment was a form of slavery too, and not all slaves were black. We in our contemporary language, or at least what we seem now, anytime you hear the word slave, Americans immediately go to black. That's not always the case. Anyway, with Key still bitter that some black soldiers got the best of him a few weeks earlier, the Star-Spangled Banner is as much a patriotic song as it is a diss track to black people who had the audacity to fight for their freedom. This is a very, very self-serving interpretation. Perhaps that's why it took almost 100 years for the song to become the national anthem. Oh, no. I remember reading this back when I was doing research on this. Again, that's an interesting interpretation. Then this writer who's quoting that, another interesting interpretation and undeniably portraying that verse as racist. So I sought out another source. I found this article on The Intercept. So it's all these sources so far are not historical sources, but what would you call it? Editorial sources. Okay, that are going to use an editorial interpretation. So this is what they found in The Intercept, written by John Schwartz. Almost no one seems to be aware that even if the U.S. were a perfect country today, it would be bizarre to expect African-American players to stand for the Star-Spangled Banner. Why? Because it literally celebrates the murder of African-Americans. No, it does not. It is celebrating the win of a battle over the British fleet, which included hirelings, aka mercenaries, and slaves, which includes former slaves, impressed soldiers, and things like that. It's not about murder. It does not celebrate the murder of African Americans. But is that an interpretation for you? The Star-Spangled Banner, American hazily remember, was written by Francis Scott Key about the Battle of Fort McHenry in Baltimore during the War of 1812. But we don't ever talk about how the War of 1812 was a war of aggression that began with an attempt by the U.S. to grab Canada from the British Empire. However, we'd wildly overestimate the strength of the U.S. military. By the time of the Battle of Fort McHenry in 1814, the British had counterattacked and overrun Washington, setting fire to the White House. One of the key tactics behind the British military success was its active recruitment of American slaves, as detailed in the 2014 article. Again, it's interesting, it's detailed in the 2014 article. I'd rather talk about an 1814 article. But anyway, in Harper's explains the orders given the Royal Navy's Admiral Sir George Cochran read, quote, "Let the landings you make be more for the protection of the desertion of the black population than with a view to any other advantage. The great point to be attained is the cordial support of the black population. With them properly armed and backed with 20,000 British troops, Mr. Madison will be hurled from his throne." Whole families found their ways to the ships of the British and who accepted everyone and pledged no one would be given back to their owners. Adult men were trained to create a regiment called the Colonial Marines, who participated in many of the most important battles, including the August 1814 raid on Washington. Then on the night of September 13th, 1814, the British bombarded Fort McHenry. Key, seeing the fort's flag the next morning, was inspired to write the lyrics for the Star-Spangled Banner. So when Key penned, quote, "No refuge could save the hiring and slave from the terror of gloom and the terror of flight or gloom of the grave," he was taking great satisfaction in the death of slaves who freed themselves. Was he, or was he again? Well, we'll get it. There's a great video on YouTube about how the Star-Spangled Banner and how he ended up being on that ship and watching this battle from the British ship that was bombarding Fort McHenry. Which again, I'll give you a Reader's Digest synopsis of that. He was taking great satisfaction in the death of slaves who freed themselves. Was he though, or was he just taking great satisfaction in the fact that the British, no matter who they threw at them, could not take this fort and force them to take down the flag? And again, this one just skips over who the hirelings are. Do you know who the hirelings are there, Mr. Who wrote this one? It said here somewhere, whatever his name is. It skips completely over the hirelings. When used in connection with hirelings, this is he wasn't celebrating the death of slaves. He was celebrating the defeat of the British, who used hirelings and slaves, however you want to interpret the term slaves in that manner. Regardless, he's celebrating the battle where our fort still stood. Anyway, with that in mind, think again about the next two lines. "And the Star-Spangled Banner in triumph doth wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave." The reality is that there were human beings fighting for freedom with incredible bravery during the War of 1812. That's not, that has nothing to do with what he was writing about, though, whether they were or not. And so these people want to turn the focus on those slaves when it was a win over the British and whoever they threw at them. So whatever. However, the Star-Spangled Banner glorifies America's triumph over them. Who is them? This guy wants to say it's over the slaves. No, it's over the British. And then turns that reality completely upside down, transforming their killers into the courageous freedom fighters. After the U.S. and the British signed a peace treaty at the end of 1814, the U.S. government demanded the return of American property, which by that point numbered about 6. Okay, then we read that part of people. Okay, so it sounds like most people are writing about this have come to the same conclusion. Most people? That this verse is racist. Wait a minute. Most people. So you picked out 3 left opinionated sources using terminology from today and using interpretations of a word of today that is very myopic in focus. That's redundant, I guess, but whatever. Interesting. I encourage everyone to do their own research to draw their own conclusions. No, you don't, because you drew the conclusion for them using 3 sources that are going to enhance your conclusion. Now, and again, I've read about this, and in fact, one of the sources I read the root one, and obviously the root has an agenda, and so if your goal is to make this a if your goal is to make it a racist line, well, then you've kind of like Snopes. You do a fact checks at Snopes based on your agenda. So anyway, thank you. Real quick, I would get caught up on these our sponsors today. Thank you, Ex-Baba Hotep let me go backwards here. Thank you, Gamer Valine, for sponsoring the show, who says, ironic that the units in Snopes didn't fight at the Battle of Fort McHenry. a black soldier died defending Fort McHenry. More died at the Battle of North Point, which was the land invasion attempt. Yes, absolutely. And you should probably look that up if you're not sure what Gamer Verlene is talking about. Thank you very much for the bullet, aka 556. Also, Gunfox61 with another almost 5, aka 499, says, "Oh, just wait, the women's sports is done because you'll have trans women will be allowed to play. I kind of hope just for the chaos all the women's events were won by only trans people, thus causing the Olympics to show the truth. Men are different." Now that's going back to our friend Gwen. It's going to be interesting over the next few years. How many trans athletes go into the Olympics? The thing on that is too, so far, a lot of people are saying, okay, well, it doesn't matter. There's only a few events that trans athletes are winning, and it's not as big a deal as everyone's making it out to be. And you know what? You're right. So far, it's not. It's not at all. There's been, obviously there's some glaring examples of incidents where there have been trans athletes who've won things, right? But in most cases, it hasn't taken any sports by storm. But so far, you haven't had any world-class athletes transition yet. Okay. For the most part, you've had, and I normally be very careful using this, but this is the only thing that I can come up with. I can't think of another alternative to what I'm about to say. So far, you've had mediocre men who have transitioned that have won women's events. Now, except for, I'm going to take the case of CeCe Telfer. Okay, CeCe Telfer ran Division II track. I can't remember what school it was, out west somewhere. And prior to being CeCe Telfer, she was a male track athlete at the same school, Division II school, scholarship athlete, ranked something like 400 something in the country, like not a very high ranking male athlete who transitioned, and by her junior year she was running as a female in Division II track and field, and became the Division II women's 400 meter hurdles champion. By far, nobody came close. And CeCe Telfer attempted to go to the U.S. Olympic trials, but this, as you heard the other day, was rejected because didn't meet the requirement. Testosterone, you have to have a certain testosterone level maintained below a certain point for a full year, which, and it's funny because that testosterone level that they require them to remain below is still higher than your most natural women athletes. Okay. But didn't qualify to go on the Olympic trials this year. And she was actually very, what's the word? She was very, understanding that had to be that way. Then we also have the powerlifter from New Zealand. Now, that weightlifter, weightlifter. There's a difference between powerlifting and weightlifting. That particular athlete, New Zealand, transition, is in her 40s, right? And not your typical, well, first of all, when that person was a male, probably wasn't even in the top 1,000 men or top 2,000 men, mediocre male who took up weightlifting, and after transitioning, competed in weightlifting events, broke some records. Some of them are counted, some of them are not, in New Zealand, and now that person will be on the New Zealand Olympic team as a weightlifter as a woman, as a female, not female, that person will never be a female, but as a woman, because they call it women. I just don't know why the International Olympic Committee doesn't just say, you know what, we're not basing our categories on gender. We're basing our categories on sex, which I don't know if there's any they can't really permanently change your sex. You can change your gender and you can have an operation and go on hormones, but again, but whatever. But wait until, here's the thing. So the two kids in Connecticut, the two young, who are now transitioned and run girls track and came in, broke a state record, came in first and second. Although the second year, the one kid ran, she came in third, but the other person broke state record and destroyed everybody in the field. They weren't necessarily top athletes as males either, but they certainly were able to go ahead as top athletes as girls. So here's the thing. What I'm waiting to see is when some actual world-class male athletes in or near their prime changed genders and began competing as women or girls. That's when the real fun's going to start. I don't know that women's sports are done yet, but if that starts happening, because and someone says, oh, well, no one would ever do that just to win an award. Well, I'm not so sure about that. Would they or not? Now, the Olympics, again, they have these rules where you have to have you have to have been on hormones, not necessarily been on hormones, but you have to have kept your testosterone level down below a certain limit for a full year and be tested in that. But the problem with that is once they qualify, I don't think that once they get past that year and they qualify based on that, I don't know if they test them anymore. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see. I want to watch the weightlifter from New Zealand. That will be the fascinating one because, broke national records in New Zealand, and it'll be interesting to see if that person will become a Olympic champion or anything like that, because obviously has qualified based on those testosterone limits. But now that they've already finished testing, I don't think they have to do it again. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. So, and again, thank you, GunFox61 and Gamer Feline, to sponsor the show. Also, X-Bubba Hotep with another bullet, aka the 357, says, I'm sorry they didn't say how it was taught as a war of attrition. It is literally in the damn lyrics, thus the flag is still there part. Yeah, these three sources that this person used all have sort of an agenda to support it being a racist thing. And, again, we're going to use today's standards, today's time to try to interpret something that was written back then. And I've read other accounts that says that term hireling a slave is just a sneering reference to the British Navy, who, basically brought in people and forced people to fight for them. And even if it were about the slaves on those Navy ships, it doesn't slave again. Right today in our time, we immediately hear the word slave and you think black, African descents. And yet there were a lot, not all blacks in the continent, our continent or our country, were slaves. Not all blacks were slaves. In fact, not even all, well, not all slaves were black either, but that kind of transition over time. But there were free black men who owned slaves too. There were plantation owners who were black who owned slaves. And so I don't see it, that line in the Star Spangled Banner in the third verse, as celebrating the murder of African Americans. It's not murder if it's a battle in war. You know, it's interesting. This guy, in the Root article, claiming that it's the celebration of the murder of African Americans. No, it's not. It's defeating the other country, the other army, the other navy. So anyway, but we want to interpret it in a way that makes it racist today. So it's, you know, and it's probably this, and then someone's saying, you know, problem with your view of my position, it's not a take, it's documented history. But then, yeah, that's great if you have, that's one interpretation. So anyway, interesting. And Jenna Ghostbear was the one who was having this argument with Maj. No, Maj, that's three historians' interpretation of what Key meant. That's not documented history. That's now how that works on anything historical. Again, and so I see it as an interpretation of today's standards. Anyway, good morning, Bosch Tube. I see you in the chat. Nice to see you. Immediately, the Civil War headed west to enslave the Chinese. Yeah, there are a whole bunch of people that owned slaves. There are a bunch of people who were slaves. For all practical purposes, the Chinese working on the railroad were slaves. Although it's interesting because I don't think they were originally citizens. I don't think they ever made them citizens after that. But they ended up having their own communities and things like that out west. Anyway, nice to see 48 people in the show today. Nice to see you all. Hey, do me a favor. If you haven't hit the like button already, do I even need to finish that sentence? I don't know. So anyway, so yeah, Gwen Berry has just lit up another firestorm of all kinds of things, of whether or not black people should salute the flag, and whether or not, you know, all kinds of silly things. Since we're on kind of the culture thing, here's an interesting story from the Daily Caller that I just saw this morning. So Toyota, the car company, apparently made some donations to Republicans, and some people are just not happy about it. So anyway, because there was some online outrage. And they said, hey, fuck it, we're gonna do what we want and don't be a bitch. Good morning, Brutus. How you doing? Also, Small Man, what's happening? Small Man, are you related to Tall Man? I've always wondered that. Also, good morning, Fight for Your Rights. How you doing? Toyota defended its decision to spend tens of thousands of dollars in donations to over 36 Republicans that objected to certifying the Electoral College votes in the 2020 presidential election. Oh no! Toyota donated a total of $55,000 to 37 GOP lawmakers who objected to the certification of the Electoral College votes during the 2020 presidential election, Axios reported Sunday. A company spokesman told the outlet that they do not believe a member of Congress's standpoint on the election should be a factor in the company's decision to offer a donation, but refused to donate to members that undermine American elections. Quote, we do not believe it is appropriate to judge members of Congress solely based on their votes on the electoral certification, the spokesman said in a statement. Based on our thorough review, we decided against giving to some members who, through their statements and actions, undermine the legitimacy of our elections and institutions. Oh, nah, I'm English, LOL. Well, I don't know if Tall Man's English, though, but I appreciate you coming to watch the show. Always do. Always nice to have you here. Okay. Where was I The Japanese automaker highly outnumbered every other corporation, including Coke Industries, that donated money to Republicans who objected to the certification, according to Axios. Axios just stirred up some shit. Cubic Corporation, a defense contractor based in San Diego, made the second largest number of donations, while Deere and Company and AT&T made one donation to an election objector PAC. A handful of Republicans objectors found financial support with small donors and grassroots organizations to replace the loss of corporate support, Axios reported. Good. Look, did anyone bitch about people who donated to people who objected to the election in 2016? I don't think so. But then they were, you can't object to black folks. But anyway, a total of 34 companies donated at least $5,000 to Republican objectors' campaigns and leadership PACs. The company received backlash from Toyota car owners online for its financial support to the GOP, with some vowing to stop purchasing their products in the future. Okay, and what a coincidence. Toyota, I do not believe it is appropriate to buy cars from companies that fund politicians who try to overthrow our democracy. Fuck off, Kasim. Good God. Oh, and Brooklyn Dad Defiant. Yes. BDOTI. Here, in fact, I'm gonna put that out here. Hang on. Brooklyn Dad Defiant, who is BTOTI. Oh, wait, not BT, BD. BDOTI. Damn it. BDOTI. Let me see if you can figure out what that acronym stands for. First one to get it, just let me know. Good morning, Richo. I didn't see you in the chat. Hello, sir. Anyone knows what BDOTI stands for? Somebody's got to figure it out. Anyway, Brooklyn Dad Defiant, BDOTI. Good morning and happy Monday to everyone who refuses to buy Toyota vehicles because Toyota financially supports insurrectionist terror. Bad dads overreacting to things. No. Close. Well, that's the right letters. Someone figure out what BDOTI means. Anyway, FTG to Brooklyn Dad Defiant. He's a douchebag. Oh no, I gave a foreshadowing of what that means. You'll probably figure it out now. Anyway, what else is going on here? Oh shoot. I had a whole bunch of things here. Hang on. Let me decide which one, because I'm running out of time here and I'm going to be selective. 48% say life will never return to normal pre-pandemic. Good God. Oh, and they're pushing this Delta variant. So the Delta variant of the stupid 19 is a more contagious variant of stupid 19. Now people have been vaccinated, double vax, whatever, are still supposedly immune from it. And I don't know. I'm assuming people who've had COVID have immunity, what do you call it? Antibodies, whatever, for that. But boy, they're making a big deal about it, even despite the fact that infected people are way down, and they're making a big deal about, well, the percentage of new infections the percentage of new infections from the Delta variant are at their all-time high. Well, yeah, except for the infections are at their down to their lows again, like as low as the beginning of March last year, and that's with all the extra with everyone being tested now too, because back then they weren't even being people being tested. So of course the Delta variant, there's going to be a higher percentage of people who have it because there's such a smaller number of people who have any of the variants. So now it is causing some havoc in Europe and also in Africa and other parts of Asia where they haven't had as many people who've had the stab yet. But I don't know that it's the deadly Delta variant. I don't know if it's any more deadly than any of the other variants. It is more contagious. That's the thing. But that's what you're going to hear a whole hell of a lot about real soon. Oh, did you hear this thing about Tucker Carlson? And he did something about being spied upon. So this is weird, and I don't know where this is going to go. But Tucker, Fox News' Carlson, Biden administration is spying on us. And we've confirmed that. This is fascinating. On Monday, Fox News Channel host Tucker Carlson said the federal government was spying on him and those associated with this program, which Carlson said was revealed through a whistleblower within the government. According to Carlson, the proof was the whistleblower revealed details of a story they had been working on that could have only been known through text and emails. Carlson said his team had filed a Freedom of Information Act request and called on the federal government to cease the behavior immediately. So here's what he said. And I don't know if I can give this justice in Tucker Carlson speak, but anyway. So Joe Biden told us recently that the single gravest, well, should I just let him do it? Let's just go through this video and then we'll call it a day. Here it is. Here we go. Here's Tucker's report here. Maybe. We'll see if there's an ad. Oh, it played an ad. Shut up. Anyway, we'll wait for the ad to go away and we'll listen to Tucker's segment here because this is really fascinating. It was in India. How come we haven't heard what's going on there for a while? Well, because they've kind of decided to use some cheap over-the-counter drugs that shall not be named and are having some success in staving it off. That's why, Uncle Bad Touch. That's a good question, though. All right, here comes Tucker. Oh, put the sound back on.
Gravest terror threat So Joe Biden told us recently that the single gravest terror threat we face is not Islamic terrorism, ISIS or Al-Qaeda, as the government has told us for 20 years now, since 2001.
All right, I won't.
It's not the brutal mobs of race extremists who burned and looted our cities last summer, BLM and Antifa, as if you'd been paying attention, you would assume it would be. Of course, they're the ones who burned the cities. No, it's none of that. The main threat we face as a nation, Biden told us, is white supremacy, white American terrorists. And our law enforcement and intelligence agencies have concluded that. The president said it's an established fact. And then he stopped. Strangely, that's all that Biden told us. He never said who those white supremacists were.
Well, they're you. They are you, Tucker. You are the white supremacists that everyone should be worried about with your silly little, well, you don't wear the bow ties anymore, but your silly little ties and your conspiracy theories and everything. That's you, Tucker, and all the people who listen to you because all the white people, of course, all the white people who aren't the woke white people, but not the woke white people, but just, all the white people that might have been, that might have voted for Trump because there's like 75 million of them. But again, those weren't all white people because the highest percentage of minorities voted for Trump ever, or for a Republican in many years. But anyway, you know who they're talking about, Tucker. All those white people, You're
fucking a white man!
Yeah, those white people. Okay.
They believe or what they plan to do to America. He announced no arrests of any
Wait,
of them. He didn't name a single person or organization.
Is this the wrong one?
So who is the white Osama bin Laden? Joe Biden didn't say.
Okay, that's not the right one. I must have. No, this is not it. Anyway, let me go back into his. So Biden recently told us. This is it. Yeah, this is the right one. Hang on, we'll keep going.
Hey, neither did his Attorney General Merrick Garland when he reiterated Biden's claims several days later. So the rest of us were left to wonder, who exactly are these domestic terrorists?
It's you!
We still don't know the answer.
We know it's you, Tucker.
Many longtime FBI agents, as we learned this weekend when we spoke to a couple of them. Biden's claim is absurd, they told us. It's not even close to true. In recent years, there have been so few crimes committed by avowed white supremacists that the FBI strongly considered dismantling the office within the Domestic Terror Division that investigates supremacist groups. As the agents we spoke to put it, the number of cases the program manager had didn't justify his position. There was nothing for him to do. For decades, by contrast, the greatest domestic terror threat has come from
Antifa.
radical environmental groups. They commit the most crimes.
Oh, they do,
Look it up.
yeah.
White supremacists, meanwhile, are at the bottom.
But here's what they do, though. Now, because I told you about the study in 2018, and they made a big deal that when they said what they would call it, not the terrorist attacks or white supremacist attacks, but they would say they had a report that said the extremist related murders. Okay, now let's parse that out a little bit, because they said that they said all extremist related murders in 2018 were people who had ties to white supremacists or white something, like whatever, right? All of them. And then they came up with 18 examples. The 18 examples. They said all extremist related murders by white supremacists or whites, whatever. And then what they did is, these weren't terrorist attacks, or when you say, oh, extremist related murders, you're thinking, oh, all these murders are because of something they did or said that was something about that related to extremism, right? That they some white guy shot a black guy because he's a black guy in the street, and that was an extremist related murders. But that's not what it was. When you go through all the examples, they were almost to a T, except for I think 3 of the 18 examples, 17 of the 18 examples were people who were charged with murder that had nothing, the murder itself had nothing to do with race, right? It was, they got charged with murder of somebody, but they also had some tangential tie to something that's racist. So, for example, one guy, it was an ex-convict, okay? And he and his wife, I told you about this story a while back, but he is an ex-convict, and he and his wife, for some reason, murdered their 10-year-old son and buried him in the yard. Now, how did this become an extremist-related murder? Well, the ex-convict, when he was in prison, was a member of a white prison gang. Okay? And when he was a member of this, and the white prison gang was considered a racist gang, extremist gang. Now, you got to think about this. In certain prisons in this country, there are, particularly in California, you go to prison and if you're not a member of a gang of some sort, you're kind of in trouble, because that's how you keep yourself from getting killed in prison. Everyone's part of a gang, right? So this guy who was part of a white prison gang, when he was in prison, they murdered his son, and they called that an extremist-related murder. And that's how they came up with it. And all the cases, one guy, there was an argument over a car one was selling to the other guy. And they got in the fight, and the one guy killed the other. Well, he had some neo-Nazi tattoos. And so they considered it an extremist-related murder. And almost 17 of the 18 cases were just that ridiculous. But then they said, so they could say that they counted only 18 for the entire year. Now, did they count any murders anywhere else? Gang-related murders? Oh, those aren't extremist-related murders. Those are gang-related, even though there's exponentially more of those happening in our country every day. You probably 18 a day of those types of murders. But those don't count because they're not extremist-related murders. Anyway, let's finish listening to Tucker here.
Bottom of that list, and federal statistics prove it. Americans are, in fact, much more likely to die from a lightning strike than at the hands of a white supremacist. White supremacy may be ugly, many opinions are, but it is not.
But the man bites dog events. We still hear about Dylan Roof every once in a while, right? Because someone in a Black Lives Matter rally talks about Dylan Roof. When did what was Dylan Roof? Was that like 2014? 2015? I don't know, something like that.
not a meaningful threat to the nation, and claiming otherwise is a lie. So why does the Biden administration persist in telling that lie? Well, it's a racial attack.
Because then you could say that's part of Trump's America, but this is Biden's America. Anyway, I'm sorry, I answered for him.
Obviously, it's waged for partisan political purposes.
Of course it
Tell
is.
black voters that Republicans are the KKK, and maybe they will keep voting for you. That's the idea. It's certainly easier than fixing Chicago or raising test scores, which they should be doing. But there's also a deeper significance. The Biden administration is signaling a very real change to actual federal policy. The war on terror, now ongoing for 20 years, has pivoted in its aims.
They're going to use the Patriot Act against you.
The war on terror is now being waged against American citizens, opponents
Ding.
of the regime. We saw this on display on January 6th. We told you a couple of weeks ago, based on language in publicly available indictments, that the FBI clearly had foreknowledge of the riot at the Capitol that day. And the agents we spoke to this weekend confirmed that is true. Quote, the FBI had sources in that crowd, confidential sources, snitches. That's 100% certain.
No, they didn't. They had no idea. They didn't have anyone in that crowd stirring anything up, would they? It's weird though. They did get rid of, what's the dude from the Proud Boys founder, whatever his name is. Weird that they got him out of there. They didn't have him in there that day. Interesting.
But it's not just political protesters the government is spying on. Yesterday, we heard from a whistleblower within the U.S. government who reached out to warn us that the NSA, the National Security Agency, is monitoring our electronic communications.
Oh,
and
they
plans to
wouldn't
leak
do
them in an attempt to
that.
take this show off the air. Now, that's a shocking claim, and ordinarily we'd be skeptical of it. It's illegal for the NSA to spy on American citizens. It's
But
a
they
crime.
do. What? Wait a minute. How did they get that FISA warrant to check out Carter Page? Huh? The fact that nothing's been done about that is really, really scary. There should be, particularly the agent who falsified emails to a FISA court and got off with a little slap on the wrist, probation, and a little fine. He should spend a year in prison. No doubt. But unfortunately, the agenda. Hello, Teresa the Kid. Hello, now what? Woo, what's happening? Nice to see you. We are taught that nothing's true unless we can measure it, and then we measure it, yet no one is allowed to call it true. Great show, P-Dawg. Well, thank you, Woo. Nice to see you. And also, Teresa the Kid, good morning. Not much. Oh, that you're talking to Select a Boy. Anyway. Unbelievable. Anyway, what is this?
Not a third world country. Things like that.
By the way, you notice they keep renewing the Patriot Act? Just FYI. Hello, infamous one. They keep renewing the Patriot Act, by the way. And now what's the Patriot Act being used for?
Should not happen in America. But unfortunately, they do happen, and in this case, they did happen. The whistleblower, who is in a position to know, repeated back to us information about a story that we are working on that could have only come directly from my texts and emails. There's no other possible source for that information, period. The NSA captured that information without our knowledge and did it for political reasons. The Biden administration is spying on us. We have confirmed that. This morning we filed a FOIA request, a Freedom of Information Act request, asking for all information that the NSA and other agencies have gathered about this show. We did it mostly as a formality. We've also contacted the press office at both NSA and the FBI. We don't expect to hear much back.
Well,
That's the way that
why would
usually
they
goes.
say anything back to
Only
you?
Congress can force transparency on the intelligence agencies, and they should do that immediately. Spying on opposition journalists is incompatible with democracy. If they are doing it...
Oh, now hold on a second. Hold on. Okay, I gotta take a little umbrance with that statement. They don't really care about democracy. They just keep talking about it like they care, but they don't care. They only care about power, and the people in power right now don't care about you, Tucker. Okay, they're just going to say, oh, it's a conspiracy theory. Tucker's talking about some wild conspiracy theory. It's a great right-wing conspiracy theory. You know how they do it. They're going to, in fact, don't say anything bad about Hillary Clinton anytime soon, because now I'm really concerned about you, Tucker. I don't know. Anyway.
To us, and again, they are definitely doing it to us. They are almost certainly doing it to others.
Oh,
this is scary.
You
We
think?
need to stop it
You
right away.
think? All right, so there it is. That's Tucker's. That's.
So Joe Biden.
Oh,
told
whoops!
us recently
Shut up,
that
Tucker.
single-
Not right now. There we go. So there's Tucker's take, and it's fascinating to me that that they are. What's interesting about that report that he just did is that he said, if you didn't catch it, the person who was the whistleblower who told them about it, told them about a story that they were working on. That the only way they would know about it is through emails and text messages. So, and we know the NSA can. What do they call it when they reveal something about you? There's a word for it, and it's blanking in my head. Unmasking. They did the they were trying to unmask some of these things the NSA have found. Who makes you a little nervous. Anyway, all right, gang. It is that time, and I didn't do a whole lot of articles today, but that's okay. What I do want to do real quick though is thank you guys for showing up. If you haven't hit the like button, hit the like button now. Do it right now. 1, 2, 3. Hit it. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Wow. Okay. Name the song. Oh, did anyone figure out what my acronym stood for, by the way? Did anyone know what my acronym stood for that I made up? Let's see. I'm going back here. I don't see it. BDOTI. Did anyone ever come up with the answer to that? The BDOTI? I don't see anyone answering that question. Let's see here. BDOTI. Let's see. I think, okay. Did anyone get it? All right, you got about 30 seconds to get your answer in. The BDOTI in reference to Brooklyn Dad Defiant. Anyway, while I'm thinking about, I'll tell you in a second, but let me just do my little ending spiel here. Thanks everybody for coming today. Hit the like button if you haven't done so already. Also, if you can still share this stream, whether it's during the stream, after the stream, or if you're watching on a replay, share the stream out on your favorite social media. Also, thank you for our sponsors of the show today. Maddie, Gunfox61, Gamer Valine, and X-Bubba Hotep. I appreciate your generosity. That every dollar helps. Also, if you're watching on replay, please put a comment in the comment section. And even if you're watching right now, come back. If you only caught the end of the show, come back and put a comment in the comment section. In fact, I want to hear your thoughts on Tucker Carlson believing that he's being spied on, which wouldn't surprise me a bit. Anyway, that's it for the day, people. And for the BDOTI beatdown on the NSS, no, not quite. It is Brooklyn Dad Defiant is the biggest douchebag on the internet. And he's not exclusive to that title, but he's the BDOTI of today. So anyway, thanks again, people. Time for me to go. My name is PDawgKnight, and I am out of here. Bye-bye. Hey, this is PDawgKnight, and thank you for watching today on the PDawgKnight channel. If you have an observation or remark you'd like to make about this video or my channel, I absolutely welcome you to write it in the comment section down below. I really look forward to hearing from you. And before you go, if you like what you saw but you're not already subscribed, please make sure you hit the subscribe button and definitely click that bell that pops up afterwards so you'll be notified when I post new videos or when we go live. I broadcast my live show, The Morning Night Live, Monday through Friday at 10 o'clock Eastern, 9 o'clock Central. A special thank you to all the supporters of this channel who share our videos on social media and who make donations through Streamlabs, YouTube, Venmo, and Cashapp, which are all linked in the description down below. Thanks again, and until next time, I'm PDawgKnight, and I'm out of here.